You had a better opening day than I did. Speaking of, are those new sunglasses? I'm noticing everybody's sunglasses because I left mine on the mountain.
Oh, no.
Casualty.
No, they're not new. In fact, I'm surprised I've had these this long. I've had these probably about 5 years now, almost 6 years, which is wild. So, yeah. No, definitely not new.
Yeah. It's stupid when you leave sunglasses up on a mountain somewhere.
It's kind of stupid whenever you leave anything anywhere in a spot like that because it's like I am completely anal about like, okay, we stop for a break. When I get my pack on and going down, like, okay, before I step foot, I'm stopping and making sure, like, okay, what did I drop? Where's my knife? Where's my tags? Where's my water bottle or whatever?
The one thing that could get you distracted is probably what got me distracted was the buck.
Hey, that's a good thing to get distracted by, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you recap your hunt there?
Mine actually wasn't that fairly event. So me and my brother, we went out. We planned for 2 nights. We took my boat out, and we just took our time coming in. So we started hiking probably about 8:30, and then I just told him like, hey, we're gonna take our time in. We're gonna drink a lot of water. We're gonna eat a lot of snacks on the way in, because it was hot. I mean, this weather's just beautiful, but it's just been so hot. So I didn't think anything was gonna be moving, and got back in there, and we got to a good vantage point to where we could see the whole mountain side that we wanted to hunt, and we saw 2 deer. We actually saw one buck, which looked like he had just gotten up to feed for a little bit, and then he just went back into the hole wherever he popped out of. And then we saw one doe. Long story short, it was starting to become evening, so we hiked up into the spot, got camp set up, got water established, and then we had like an hour and a half before it was going to get dark, so we figured we'd go do some glassing and working our way across this ridge. And
How far did you want to go from camp? Because we talked last time about you want to be on the mountain in a place to make a move early in the morning, especially with it being hot, where they might not be out for too long to feed. So were you like up in them, or were you kind of distancing yourself just a little bit, give it some space?
We were up in them, so we were up on the farther side of the mountain, trying to stay away from all the other territory that we wanted to hunt. So like where we set up our camp, I mean, ideally you could shoot them right from camp, but we had to walk through a little bit of timber. But so yeah, we were kind of like, I would say right in them. I mean, it was 2-minute walk, 5-minute walk to where we could start glassing. But
on the start of them, rather than like walk through half of them on the way to yeah.
But the nice part is like where you got to walk through. It's like alpine meadow, and then just broken up in those small trees and alpine meadow trees, and then you get out to your black glassing point. So at any point when you're getting up, you can just, I mean, who knows if a buck will pop out in front of you in one of those little meadows. So we got up, did a little glassing, ended up jumping a buck, and he hung out for far too long. I thought my brother was going to lay the smackdown on him. He wasn't very big, and we wanted to wait for the next morning because we weren't sure what the morning was going to bring.
Yeah.
So, but man, we sat there and stared at him. I pulled out my mag view, spotting scope, got some cool video of him, and he just sat there and stared, just a little forky, but it's like, yeah, if you want to shoot him, shoot him. That's meat in the freezer. So, but he ended up not shooting him, which worked out good. So then he walked away, and then we just did some glassing some more, and we didn't see anything, and then just made it back to camp and ate some grub, and then drank a bunch of water again and went to bed. It was really windy, like the entire night. It was just steady, constant wind, 15 to 20 maybe, and which was nice because it kept the bugs away. And then we woke up the next morning, worked our way up to our little spot, little 5-minute walk. So I just told my brother, I was like, okay, you can shoot first. So you carry the rifle. If you see a buck through one of these little meadows, just pop it if you want it. If not, hand me the gun, and then we'll go from there. So we're walking through. He's got the gun, and we get up to the spot where we can kind of see. It's really steep. So figure we check the spot out first, and then we'll work our way up to where we can see a bunch more and work up to the spot. We see this one little doe that's been hanging out, and then uh, that was it. Like, and it's early. It's probably 4:30. It's when we got to this little spot and we're sitting there waiting. Nothing. So then we're like, okay, we'll just put all of our eggs in one basket. We'll go over to the other side and just start glassing and go over to the other side. We're sitting there for about a half an hour, and on this ridge on the far side, of course, on the way far side over, I see this buck. I'm like, oh, there's a buck. That's pretty cool. Tell my brother, it's like, hey, there's a buck over there. Oh, okay, cool. And it's just a forked horn. So, okay, we'll sit there and watch. We're waiting for something to come start feeding up or come around either side of the mountain from where we're sitting, because we're at the top and we can just see. It's just big, benchy, and shelfy and steep, and just so much food around. So, but then this buck disappears, the one that we saw, and then he starts coming back over, and then he's got 4 buddies. We're like, oh, okay, cool. There's a group of 5, and they're just working like below us, and it was still windy, 15 to 20 at this point, just right at our face. So we knew that wasn't going to screw us up, and there was no bugs, and there was no fog. So
Nice.
just hot, and it was hot and windy. So we're waiting, and they're slowly working our way, and they're about 300 yards. Like, it's pretty far in this wind. I usually haven't shot in the wind, so
Yeah. It's like prairie stuff, and Abby and I had to worry about that with the antelope hunt because it's like, all right, it's blowing 30. What's that going to do to the ballistics?
yeah, I mean, I got a pretty good rifle setup, but I'm like, even then, it's 300 yards, so like, what's this wind going to do? And is it windy down there? I don't know,
Yeah.
because they're quite a ways below us. So anyways, we just start watching them. They're just slowly feeding towards us. They get to about 250, 225, and I'm like, still, what is this wind going to do? And I'm like, I would really like to be closer because we brought one rifle, and my brother would shoot first, and in theory, he would pass me the rifle. Sounds great. And always sounds great. So anyways, these bucks feed off and over, like, down into the next, I don't even know what to call it, the next shelf, which turned out to be a big bowl. And I'm sitting there like, okay, so we got to get down there, because I was thinking they would just feed back up because they had been kind of in and out of sight, in and out of sight. And so they didn't come back out after about 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, we got to make a play on them. So crawled down to the next, where we can see the next shelf bench, I guess, which was probably about a 200-yard walk, and ended up finding them. Like, okay, before we shoot, how are we going to get to them? And they were just down in like this big bowl. They were just like back and forth, just trying to avoid the bugs, and then they would stop and spar, and then they would look around, go back to feeding. And this one buck, the bugs must have been bothering him, because he did like one of those rodeo horse shows. Like, he was
Like the North Slope caribou?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he would just jump up and kick his feet and flail his head around like mosquitoes were on him.
Freaking out.
Bad. Yeah, just freaking out. Totally forgot about your caribou. And then, so we're watching them. The wind is good right now. It's probably 10, 5, maybe 5 to 10, and it's not bad at all. And so my brother's getting set up, and I find the 2 bigger bucks out of the group, and one was a 3x3 with eye guards, and then the other one was a 3x2 with no eye guards. So not big bucks by any means, but still pretty fun. So my brother ends up shooting one, and I'm watching in the binos, and I just watch his just drop like right in his tracks, and then he's trying to get back in the scope, and 2 seconds later I said, give me the gun, and he gives me the gun, and I put one in the chamber, and find my buck, because once he shot, they just kind of looked around like, what was that noise, and why did Fred drop?
Yeah.
So then I grab the gun, I get on my buck, and he's perfectly broadside, so I just shoot one right behind the shoulder, and he ends up doing like this big loop. When I say big loop, it's probably like a 10, 15, 20-yard, like a big C-shaped thing. And I'm like, wow, he's running really fast. Did I miss him? Like, of course, did I miss him? Like, runs through my head. I'm like, I don't know about that. So then he just drops at the end of his loop, but he's still trying to crawl away with his front leg. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I didn't hit him that good.
Mm.
So, and this is within a minute. So, I mean, it was pretty quick. And so then I put another one in the chamber and get back on him, and I pulled a gun, and it totally, so for my second shot, I missed by what I thought was 5
Second
feet.
shot airmail. It seems
Yes,
like it's the thing.
yeah, just to hear the gun go off, give the other bucks a warning shot. The other bucks didn't move, by the way, and turns out I take a deep breath after my second shot, and then I'm just watching him, and 10 seconds goes by. He's down. So then we high five, and yeah, good job, and yeah, from there, crawl down to him, check him out, take some pictures, and start butchering, and that's when the bugs came, and it was terrible. Like the worst bugs I've ever seen. I thought they were going to pack us away.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah, the flies,
Huh.
mostly flies, and then the horse flies, and mosquitoes, and no-see-ums, I guess. So when I got home yesterday, I I was just like touching my head. And I'm like, what is this crusty, nasty stuff? And I had been swatting horseflies, and this is so gross, but I had like crusty horsefly
Carcasses.
nasty.
Oh,
Well, it
that's-
wasn't well, yeah, it was probably just anyways, it was pretty gross. I'm like, that's the only thing that it could be.
Huh.
So yeah, we ended up getting them butchered out, and we hadn't broke camp down before we had gone on our morning hunt. We just packed up our stuff, left the tent and extra things that we didn't need for the day's hunt, because we're thinking if we don't get anything, then we would just come back, camp, and then try to get something the next morning. But we weren't going to bring the meat way back up the hill, so we just side-hilled and dropped the meat down, went back up, packed up camp, and it was still fairly early in the day. We started hiking at 12:30 after we got camp broke down, and then back to our meet, and then we picked up everything, and then just started heading out about 12:30. So pretty fun trip. That was the first time we've doubled up together, me and my brother, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to put the buck side by side and take a picture.
yeah.
And his was bigger, so.
How long was the hike, and at what elevation you get? Because you came up from the ocean.
Yeah, so we went up to about 31 to 32, I think. I think we camped at 31 to 32. I think that's about how high that one is.
Okay.
And the hike, I mean, we literally took all day. I think it took us like 7 hours to get in there, and that's with our breaks. Like, there's a good watering hole on the way in that I know, so we stopped and had coffee, ate lunch.
Yeah. And that was on the first, right? You went over on the first.
No, I went up on the second.
Second.
Yeah. Friday.
You went up to the second. Got home yesterday.
Yep.
You only stayed one night?
Yeah, we planned for 2 nights, but we got done early, and we didn't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you shot it in the morning, got it down, had all day, got back. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't want to. Stay out another night with the meat. Just
hot.
It probably would have been fine in the shade, and had we had constant wind, but that was not something I was going to chance. So
Yeah.
we just took our time getting out of there, and yeah, it was good. Nice heavy packs, and got down to the boat and put the meat on ice, and had a good snack, some smoked salmon dip, and a trashy energy drink, and off we went.
Nice.
Yeah.
When we went out, it was like the perfect weather. Because when that weather changes, it's just money. And the opening day was going to be perfect. The 31st or the last day of, was it 31st or was it 30? How many days are in last month?
31.
31. So whatever day, that was when we flew out, and it was kind of marginal, kind of windy, rain showers here and there. And that's what the forecast was for the first half of the opener, too. So I thought, man, this is perfect time. We're going to get into the lake, and it's just going to be on. We saw a couple bucks the night that we flew in, made camp, glassed up, saw a couple bucks. So I was excited. We had this part of the lake we could go, we had this part of the lake we could go, and then a whole bunch of other terrain. And then at 8 p.m., another float plane comes in.
Ooh.
I thought, aye. But I don't know why it was kind of different. You know, up north we talked about all the different airstrips on all the different rivers, and if
Mhm.
someone's here, well, there's also this one. You can just go a little bit further, and there's just a lot of things that can happen. So, I guess part of me knew that there was the chance that someone else could be in there, and so
Yeah.
they dropped in, and so that just changed our hunting plan. There's still plenty of space. Um, so I saw a couple nice bucks. Woke up in the morning, 3:45. Had breakfast because my brother, and he'd never hunted before, and then nephew who's 13 who'd never hunted before. He was an animal. He was great with.
That's awesome.
He was totally trained for the hiking. Didn't complain at all about the distance or the steepness. Like wasn't nervous about going on the edge of stuff. So it was really cool to not have that sort of limitation. But I saw a buck, and it was at the bottom of this cliff, and it was a long way away. I thought, well, where we're headed to Glass is a really good spot. It's going to be closer. So we kind of left that buck be.
Yeah.
I thought it was a tougher spot. So we walked around and we see a couple bucks bedded. One's just like a mega. It's got a smaller one with it. So we're watching it for a little bit. And we're up on this shelf about 250 yards away. And the primary goal was to get my nephew a buck. But never hunting before, there's just a lot of things that you try to prepare. Okay, what is the potential things that you need to know in the moment or even before it about getting a good rest, about when you see the buck with your bare eyes, take note of something as like a landmark. So, okay, there's the buck, and there's a rock in the shape of a diamond to its left. So then when you're looking through the scope, you can find, okay, well, I'm not near that, or like the trees, or some sort of landmarks. Then you can re-find it in the scope. And then also we wanted a buck as close as possible, but that one was 250, and it was down kind of in this bowl, and we didn't really have an access point, and so I thought, well, it would be a great forky if that forky was there, so we should move maybe to both, and if we could shoot both, then I'll shoot the big one, he shoots the small one, I'm not really sure. So we tried. What we should have done is I should have shot the big one, and then he could have kind of seen what it's like and been, hey, it's your turn, be excited for it, whatever. But then it would have been, I felt bad about, it's his hunt, and then here's Uncle just taking the rifle and shooting. So failed attempt on those 2 bucks, and then it started to get a little bit warm. Saw a couple other deer, but it just didn't come together. We saw a little forky, made a move on it, got really close to it, got a great stalk on it, and then it just bounded behind these trees and never got an open shot. There was a skyline shot where it was broadside for half a second, but at that point, another plane came into the lake, and there was a wheel plane that came and circled the lake twice.
Wow.
And I was like, there's a lot of planes around, and, a skylit shot is not a good shot to take, and so it wasn't. So he didn't take that one, and then we didn't see that buck again. So it just seemed it was always something else. We never got it.
So by this time, you had 2 other different groups at the lake that had been dropped off, and then the wheeled plane doing circles?
Yeah, the wheel plane just buzzed twice.
Did you ever see the other 2 groups?
Saw them, heard some shots, heard 4 or 5 shots.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was about perfect in that we were at one end of the lake. There was a group at the far end of the lake. And then the group that got dropped off at 8 p.m. was like in the middle.
Oh, wow.
So, but we didn't see the first tent. We didn't see that tent until after we'd made our camp. We kind of looked around like, wait, there's a tent over there. Like, we didn't even know. But it was on opposite ends. So it was like, oh, wait, we may have actually corked someone else.
Oh.
Unless they were coming all the way over, which they probably weren't. So it's like, okay, well, they're at their end. We're at this end. Okay, no big deal. Then there's some in the middle, but still, all right, 3 groups, but massive. And then that other plane, I don't know what that other plane was doing coming in, if they're adding to one of the groups or what. But
so did you guys camp at the lake and then just hunt from the lake every day, or did you guys?
Yeah, we did that. Just so we had 2 tents. We had like a mess tent. We had the Red Cliff for just in case we got soaked, but we got rained on a little bit, but it wasn't bad. So we got out of the tent in the morning. We'd go there. That's where our gear was. That's where we'd have breakfast. And so it was pretty nice to, be able to stand up. And, there was some comfort because, your first hunt's just like your first fishing trip for a kid. You want at least a good experience, a fun experience. So if you don't get anything, but it's still fun, you might want to do it again. If it sucks and you don't get anything, then you might not want to do it again. Or if it sucks and you get something, it's like, well, that sucked. I didn't like that at all. So, but yeah, we kept getting these kind of like half chances, and each one of those, it came down to some of those fundamental things that with experience you kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was tough. There were a couple times where I could see the buck, but he couldn't find it in the scope, or he could see it with the eyes and couldn't find it in the scope, or was nervous about taking the shot, or was just assumed or just knew that the buck was going to move. And that's something I still deal with too. It's like, oh, it's going to move. Like, no, it's not. And if it does, it's fine. But before you rush a shot, make sure you settle things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I ended up not getting one. So that day we had a couple encounters, and the next morning woke up about the same time. Takes a little bit to get going, but it was super hot. And saw a couple does in the morning. Around midday, there was a buck that was feeding in the shade of one of those cliffs. It had kind of come out of some timber and fed a little bit around noon. Tried to make a stalk on that one. But my brother and Benjamin got really close to it. Beautiful stalk. They just did it perfectly. And there was like just tree stump. Like when it kind of stood up and then walked forward, and then there was just the tree that was in the way. So he has a picture from his cell phone of buck and then tree, and then it just walked away slowly, never gave him a shot, and it was just like a perfect for the buck every time that there wasn't a shot. But I was proud of my nephew to not just like be bloodthirsty, be so stressed out, just like shooting it wherever. So I was like, hey, you can still have a really good hunt and not take anything home.
Yeah,
so
zero pressure.
It's not the lesson you maybe want to learn on your first one, but it's a good lesson to learn at some point. You can be satisfied and have fun. And my brother loved it, just being in that amazing territory. And I made the comment that we'd hiked up to the top, and it was pretty brutal, but it was during the day too, so it's hot. We're waiting maybe for something to feed out, but we're just kind of killing time. We'll get back to the tent for like an hour or so. We'll eat an early dinner, and then we'll go back out again. And I said, we're kind of killing time right now, but people will go out of their way to hike something like this, and that's the thing. Like, that's what you do. This is the result. This is the goal, and we're up here just killing time. It's pretty crazy. And he's like, yeah, that's a good point. And my nephew loved it. He loved looking around.
That's awesome.
And took a couple naps, up there, and liked the alpine naps. And there was enough wind to keep the bugs off for the most part. So, I feel there was part of me that thought, hey, we're going to get $3. How many bucks can we bring back? But, ultimately you still got to make things happen. And, super fun. I think it was a good experience. I hope he'll hunt again.
Yeah, sounds like you guys had a great trip, minus not shooting anything. But so you guys would wake up, and then you guys would hike up, and then just stay up there all day, and then.
Yeah, we were within striking distance, so it was like we just had to side hill a couple hundred feet of elevation because we were already in some kind of broken timber.
Okay.
So we just had to go up a couple hundred feet, and while we were doing that, we were in some territory, and we could glass across. So, it wasn't like we had to go, a mile or 3 miles or anything like that. We could glass from camp the edge, and we could move. Like we were 200 yards. The last evening we were up there actually. We went back to camp after the whole up top thing, super hot. Went back to camp, had an early dinner, kind of rehydrated, got prepared to sit out till about dark, and we only had to walk about 200 yards to a good spot, and then we were glassing, and sure as heck, buck walks out and said, "Buck."
Nice.
But there was a tree that was in the way, so we were, and that was going to be a 200-yard shot. That was pretty far for him. So we were right in striking distance. It was. I mean, everything you could have asked for, but it was just ended up being. The bucks weren't super, peopled, so they were edgy and running off or anything, but they got super, super lucky, and just the way it goes.
Yeah, that's hunting.
That is hunting.
Well, that's pretty cool. So would they do it again?
Hope so. Think so. Maybe.
next year?
Yeah, hope so.
Nice.
But how do you deal with the hot weather stuff?
Oh, gosh.
When you're kind of near a lake, that can drop the temperature a little bit. So every morning we had a lot of dew. But if you're up top, some of those areas that doesn't have that, you're not close to the well, you're kind of close to the ocean, relatively speaking. But you might wake up and there's no dew on any of the alpine surfaces. So it's not a matter of them getting out and feeding and also getting their water. Um, how do you handle your opening day, or
Uh,
your if it's hot, or your mornings in the heat?
so it was just when we first woke up, it was pretty chilly because it had been like windy the entire night. But there was a little bit of dew on the inside of the tent. But as far as like the brush and the grass and all the low shrubs and stuff like that, there was no dew on it. And I think it has to do with with how much wind there was. It's just
Mm.
probably not enough for it to build up. I'm not too sure, but wasn't bad. Like I thought the morning dew we would be wet up to our shins, type of thing, and there wasn't any dew. Once we got away from the inside of the vestibule of the tent, we were good to go. So it was fairly dry. It just started getting warm probably about 9 a.m. And that's with the wind. So, but it was fairly cool. I mean, for an August day, I guess.
Mm.
So
Have you noticed a difference if it is super dry, the bucks won't feed as late into the morning versus if it is more moist, do they feed later, do you think?
I haven't noticed. I just think the heat just really gets them not as active during the day. So I mean, it was pretty hot. So for our standards in Ketchikan, I guess. So
Yeah.
um, my guess is that it doesn't get them moving as much during the day, and especially when the bugs are out and there's no wind,
Hmm.
those bugs will absolutely just eat them up. So yeah, it was nice to get out, but I think I'm gonna wait till this weather just breaks and we get some of those semi-cloudy days. Temperature drops a little bit because hunting in 72-degree weather is not exactly fun.
No. And if there's no morning fog, if sunrise is at 4:45, that means it's going to be totally light by 4:05,
Yeah.
which means that you got to be up and ready 3:45.
Yep.
And then sun sets at 9, so you're out there till 9 o'clock, 9:30. You're asleep, so you're just taking essentially a night nap
Yeah.
to wake up, and then you're just burning it.
Yep.
So it's tough to get remotivated afterwards. You do that for 3, 4, 5 days. You're just getting dehydrated and just getting beat up all day. Uh, but that's the thing. Like even during the day, like my first 4 point was middle of the day, but it was down in this like cool little notch. There was a chute, and it never got any sort of sunlight,
Mm.
and it was just cooler in there, and it was bedded down, and there you go. And people from down south, when they come up, sometimes talk about their morning beds versus their afternoon beds, and they'll switch their beds. You don't really have that same thing here, where you glass in the morning, and then as they're moving beds, as the sunlight comes in, then they go to the opposite side of the hill. Things are so dense here; they can be in the same bed,
Oh yeah.
or they can move beds without you even seeing them.
Mhm.
That alpine brush is so dense and so thick that you're lucky sometimes to even catch a glimpse of something walking through there.
Yeah, and like where we were, like we had pockets of like little alpine trees and stuff like that. So you'd have like this little group of 10 by 20 or 20 by 20 feet of little groups of trees, and not very far apart, so they could just pick up and move. And when we spotted that one buck, it was probably about 2, 3 in the afternoon, and he had just gotten up. I saw him for a second, and he was feeding for a little bit, and then he just disappeared in the matter of like 5 minutes.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he just got up to feed a little bit, or the bugs were bothering him, or just doing his little afternoon thing. So, but yeah, definitely tricky.
Yeah, it can be hard to pattern them. And again,
Mhm.
I don't have the expertise of some of the other people that are around here, but yeah, they can be out and you can find them at any point of the day. It's just that early morning is, and then evening is. Those are the prime times, and it can be hard to hunt your face off the entire time through. So sometimes it
Yeah.
is nice to just take a little nap. Make sure you stay hydrated. That way you have the juice for the evening.
Yeah, I was hoping I was hoping we'd get a little afternoon nap yesterday when we were hiking out, but that didn't happen. We're just focusing on water and keeping one foot in front of the other and
Yeah.
just trying to get back to the boat. Not that we were in a hurry or anything. I mean, kind of, just because we didn't want the meat to get warm. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
was a long day yesterday.
Once it's over, you're kind of motivated to get out.
Yeah.
Just go slower, but just get it done. Because
Yeah.
every minute that you are not moving toward the goal, you're not getting toward the goal, and it sucks.
Yep.
But you got to do it, which is different than walking in. Because hey, let's conserve some energy. Let's conserve some water. Because if you start the hunt kind of behind on all that stuff, it can kind of might not be as sharp. But
Yeah. Yeah, on our way out, it was nice because once we were off the mountain, we had, a couple miles to go, but it was mainly through like broken up muskeg and timber. So that there was a little bit of a breeze every now and then, and it was just nice. So we were in the shade, in the breeze, and then just a little bit in the sun, and then back into the shade and the breeze. So
nice.
yeah, it was pretty good.
Any new gear?
No new gear, but kind of a funny story. So yesterday when we were hiking out, we only packed up one rifle, and rather than packing up a pistol or another rifle, just to try to keep weight down, told my brother, yeah, you got bear spray, you might as well bring it. So he, one of those things that's better to have it, need it, not have it type of thing.
Yeah.
And so he's got his bear spray on his little belt. We're hiking out and we're stopping for a break, and we're just tired, beat down, wet from sweat, and just doing the typical hike out thing. And so I throw my backpack down, and he's a little bit behind me, and find a shady spot where there's a nice breeze and we can grab some water from this little stream. And he throws his backpack down, and he's fiddling around with it, doing some things. And we're about 5 minutes into our break, and he goes to move his bag, and we hear this big.
Oh
We're
no!
like, oh, what the heck? My first thought was like, oh, weird. Someone just popped the gut sack on the deer, but the deer were already boned out. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That's how tired I was. And then it just clicked. We both look at each other, wide-eyed. We're like, oh no, like that was the bear spray going off.
Oh.
So then I'm like, drop the pack and go upwind. So he's like, I can't drop it because it's when he dropped it. That's when it triggered.
Oh.
So somewhere in between beating the brush, he had lost the cap to the bear spray, and when he went to whatever he was doing in his backpack, it had leaned over and just started, because he was letting it go so he could sit down, and it was leaning the wrong way, and he's like, I can't let go of it because then the bear spray is going to go off again. So then he pulled it and trying to cover up his nose, and we both start coughing, and just, oh, yeah, it was bad.
Brutal.
So we got a little taste of bear spray yesterday, which was kind of funny. And then luckily we didn't get it in our eyes or actually sprayed on us. But by the end of the day, like somehow I had gotten so let me back up. So we got the bear spray thing figured out. We stayed away from our packs for a little bit. The wind was good enough at that point, and it didn't discharge the whole can. So and we couldn't find the clip anywhere. My guess is it's in the pile of brush we had to walk through. And so it's like, well, he goes, well, should I just leave it here, carry it out with us? Or it's like, well, we should probably get rid of the rest of it in there so we don't accidentally spray ourselves. So I grabbed it, and I discharged the rest, like, out and away, upwind, away from everything. And somehow I got it on the back of my hand, and my hand was burning. And this probably happened in the afternoon yesterday, and my hand was still burning last night when I went to bed at about 11.
Man.
And luckily we just didn't get it in our eyes, but anyways, we discharged it and we brought it out with us. But yeah, so just a little fun time with the bear spray.
Yeah, the brush here is so bad. Like that sort of stuff happens.
Oh yeah.
I like my rifle has a slide safe, and it's a 3-point safe, so there's nothing that can like grab onto it or like move the notch. My wife has a Weatherby 270, and it's got one of those like lever safes, and it's a 2-point safe. And as she was walking through the brush, she just kind of slung over the shoulder. Everything is so dense, and it's not just like going through berry bushes. Like you're going through that buckbrush, which is really, really stiff.
It's terrible.
And it had hit the lever, and so it was hot. She didn't have anything in the chamber.
Yeah.
And then other times too, like you're just going through stuff, and then it can, hit the bolt, and if it moves the bolt just enough, then the bolt can just drop. But like that sort of stuff you got to be aware of it. That also makes it nice if you have, if you carry your gun in a gun case or you have it totally strapped to your pack. But sometimes as you're walking through, like you're kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I'm going to go through some brush right quick. And so you're carrying it or you kind of put it over the shoulder or something like that. And yeah, that sort of stuff happens. So
Oh, yeah.
you sound like just a novice fool to have the safety come off a bear spray thing. But anybody who's hunted up here for more than a couple times and has been through that brush knows that, yeah, weird stuff happens.
Oh, yeah. And he had it right on his belt, so he wasn't wearing his bino harness. Otherwise, it probably would have been there. But he had it right on his belt and going through the waist-high brush. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know it's going to happen. So,
Yeah. Grab it.
I have had a buddy lose the bolt on his rifle, and we got back to the boat. This was during a rut hunt a bunch of years ago, and we got back to the boat, and he just didn't have a bolt anymore. Like, where'd it go? Yeah. Bummer. So, luckily, we were broke teenage kids, and it was just a cheap rifle, not like nice rifle or anything, but still sucks.
Yeah, yeah. You just wonder how it happens, but it
Yeah.
just does, and you go through stuff and you just beat through stuff. Especially
Oh,
you
yeah.
kind of take like the full back approach to some of that brush, like you did on the caribou hunt coming back through the willows, where you just manhandle some of the areas if you can. You just put your head down
And
go.
charge.
Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you gotta finagle your way up and down and through and around the alders, but
And sometimes the brush wins.
sometimes the brush wins. Yeah, I got a gravity-fed water filter.
Ooh,
Never had one of those. MSR 10 liters, so it was so nice to be able to just kind of set it and forget it. You get that full. You drink water, you cook with it, you get your water bottles filled, you stay hydrated, and then fill it up before you leave, and then you come back and it's just ready to go.
Nice.
Like it still has to run through the thing, so it takes a little bit, but man, that was so nice. So I brought my pump too, so there was some redundancy.
Nice.
I had my pump as we were walking around, but all the water you could ever want at the camp in that 10-liter thing. It's so nice.
So you would have one dirty bag and then one clean bag, and then you just turn it over and let it do its thing?
It's there's one bag, and then there's a short tube to the filter, and then another tube with a little cincher down on it, and then a connector to the top of your water bottle.
Okay.
So you kind of hang it over a branch or something like that, but then you're ready to go. You grab it. You have to hold it down, like put your water bottle between your feet, put the lid on thing, and then undo the cincher. So the water then gravity feeds through the filter, down the hose, into your water bottle.
Nice.
So it's not like you come back to 10 liters that are totally clean.
Yeah.
But it was just super nice to have that much water, then not having to pump. Like you get a good efficient water pump that's like a clean filter. It doesn't take too long, but it's super nice to just have it like that. And I like that.
Yeah.
It was a MSR.
Nice. My brother brought up his gravity feed. Was that platypus? I think the bag was platypus. I'm not sure which brand he brought up, but he had a 2-liter bag, and that's what we set up at camp, and it worked really well. It was nice, just with the little cinch thing. Just put it right over our little water bottle, and then could walk away and do other chores. We didn't have one fall over, so. But then, so I use the 2-part Aquamira, and I didn't check it before I left. And then I also have a Sawyer squeeze, but Sawyer squeeze was fine. It worked every time. But my Aquamira, just put a couple drops in per liter, let it sit, and then wait, and then dump it in your water, let it sit some more, and then the chemical reaction or whatever in there kills all the germs. Works really well. I used it all last year. And so I was going to pour my little, was going to be a little chemist on the mountain, was going to pour it all in the cap like you're supposed to, and I still had a bunch in my part B, and I had nothing in my part A, but like 4 drops. And I'm like, so at some point, the part A just like either dissolved or it just wasn't there. So luckily, we had 2 backups, the Sawyer squeeze, and then actually I had another different kind of pill that I used, so which takes 4 hours, which is far too long. So
Are those the ones that it kind of tastes like iodine afterwards?
yeah, it was a little gross.
Yeah.
It was.
So you had the one pill, wait 4 hours, and then you had like a second pill to make it not taste like iodine or taste whatever.
Yeah, it was pretty similar to that. It was the Catadin little. I just use. They're so small, so I throw them in my water treatment kit as like a little backup, just because it takes so long. So I have one of those little 6-liter dromedary light bags, and so we just filled that up with water, and the water was gross because it was just in this little pond, and it was murky from the wind hitting it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we needed to kill all the germs out of that thing. But
Yeah.
no, it worked good. We just had a little bit of chunkies in our water, but
We had
bad.
some moving water, which is really nice. Because this time of year, especially when you haven't had a ton of rain, and there's some snow left, but those patches are kind of few and far between. So getting some running water is so nice.
Yeah.
And then you feel better about it. But some of those stagnant ponds that are up there, like the top quarter inch is clear, but like all the filter stuff like settles down into it, and you just can't possibly get. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, but it's so hot. I mean, you just got to drink a lot of water, and
Yeah.
I still don't think we drank enough. So.
Yeah.
But no, it was a good trip. Just got to wait for the sun for this hot spell to go away so I can get back out there.
Such a stupid, weird thing to want in Ketchikan is to want the sun. Well, I guess it's not that we want it to go away. It's that we'll just hold off on hunting until it does go away.
Yes.
And prioritize something like fishing. We went out today, didn't catch any halibut. The wind was just enough. We've been out to this spot before, and the wind and the tide kind of bounced each other out. So we got these really nice drifts over this halibut spot without having to use the motor or anchor. It was just so effortless and beautiful.
Nice.
But this time we were going a little bit too fast, so I had to stay on the motor and try to keep Abby on the spot. And got a little lingcod on the way back, or lost a lingcod at the boat on our way back in. But it kicked up a little bit and got a little bit wavier, and it's not super comfortable apparently for when you're 8 months pregnant to be out in a boat.
Look at that plane. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's hitting that boat wake.
Oh yeah. Is he trying to take off, or is he?
No, he was landing. Whoa.
That was weird.
That was not a good approach. That's probably why the 7-knot rule is there.
Yeah.
That was wild. So sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
Well, he just like bounced. It was like he went across the wake and bounced over it. That was weird.
Yeah, he was taking some big bounces, and then he just took off again. My guess is he's probably going to try it again. So sitting in front of the channel, boat's coming through. He's going pretty quick, throwing up a pretty good wake, and just watching this float plane come down, and I don't know if the pilot didn't see the wake or something, and he starts making his approach. He's skipping across the water and hits that big wake and makes about 2-3 bounces before he cranks up the throttle and takes off again. So we'll see if he
Little touch and go.
makes a different approach here.
Huh.
That was wild.
Yeah, I just saw when he had like hit, and it was like that was a pretty big bounce there.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt
It's kind
you.
of weird. No, that's your authentic Ketchikan stuff.
Yeah.
We flew in on an otter, and those things have so much power.
You guys flew out on an otter?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought you were flying out on a beaver.
We were initially on a beaver, but they flew us out and another group out. It was funny because it was actually a former student of mine. So I was like, oh, there you go.
Oh,
so
cool.
We got to see where they were going to hunt. But,
Nice.
just knowing a good pilot, like a guy who's been here, Steve Cam at Seawind.
Oh, cool.
He's been here forever, and he's, part of the community, has kids went through the school. So, knows, respects all the everything, good pilot. And, he's got it's one of like a 1962 otter.
Wow.
And that thing can just, there's so much horsepower behind it. And we saw the difference when we did our caribou fly-in, the difference between like some private person bought a private plane and flies it into these airstrips.
Yeah.
Versus the flight-seeing one that has turbos.
That's pretty cool. So you guys had a full plane heading out then.
Yeah.
How many people were in his group?
2. It was just 2.
Oh,
But
wow.
they had, speaking of water, they had like water bottles, they had bladders, they had jugs, they had a
Full.
lot. Yeah, and I was like, dude, I'll buy you a water filter. It's like a graduation present, man.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they're go-getters. I'm sure they came back pretty heavy.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be fishing time for a little bit. Might at some point try just maybe get lucky, find something. But just got to enjoy these last couple of weeks of summer before school starts. So
Nice.
all right, man. Thanks again
Yeah.
for the story.
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Yep.
the double.
It was fun.
All right, see you, man.
You're up next.
I hope so.
All right.